Thoughts on what Dr. Collins is saying now in this interview that we just saw with Dr. Siegel?
Well, it's about time. I mean, remember, Martha, Dr. Fauci was on notice at 10:32 p.m., January 31st, 2020. He gets an email from a virologist who's received American tax dollars to do grant research. He gets an email from Dr. Christian Anderson, and in that email, Dr. Anderson says this: the virus looks engineered. The virus is not consistent with evolutionary theory. So he was on notice clear back 19 months ago. January 31st, 2020. Over the next 13 hours, if you look at the emails, Dr. Fauci learned some other key facts. He learns gain-of-function research was, in fact, funded and done. Grants were done in the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China. And he learns that that research grant didn't go through the proper oversight screening committee called the P3 framework. So by February 1st, 2020, Dr. Fauci knows 4 key facts. He knows there's a lethal virus on the loose. He knows that virus started in Wuhan, China. He knows that it was gain-of-function research that American tax dollars funded. He knows it didn't go through the oversight, and he knows the virus looks engineered and not consistent with evolutionary theory. And for the last 18 months, they have hidden that information from the American people. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't hide it. Maybe there's some explanation. But Dr. Fauci refuses to come answer our questions now. He testified 17 times over the last 18 months, but now no more testimony, can't testify now that we've got those emails from what took place early on with this virus.
Is there any way that Congress can hold him accountable if any of what you're saying turns out to be the truth?
The Democrats have the subpoena power, so the Democrats don't want to call him in now, even though they couldn't. They called him in several times over the last year. Every major news network covered him, 360 days of the year, 24 hours a day, it seemed. But now he doesn't want to come testify in front of Congress. So we'll see. We can't call him in. We'd like to. We'd like to call him in, and he can prove me wrong if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. The other thing is, there was a conference call that he put together on February 1st with all these virologists who got your tax dollars, and after that conference call, it was interesting. The notes on every single email, every single one, are redacted. We can't get access to that. What happened on that conference call?
That's very interesting. That's interesting. Sometimes there are little turning points in these conversations because we definitely have sort of rolled over into a different zone where it's much more considered that it might have come from the lab. And I think that goes back in many ways to this moment on late night TV. Watch this.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle.
I mean, at some point, it just became impossible in the larger culture, Congressman, to avoid this discussion.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I think that was a big moment. I do think that common sense tells us it most likely came from this lab, but that's not what Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins told the American people over all this length of time. And that's the part that troubles me, because if we'd have known that information, we had a hearing just a few weeks ago where people who were willing to testify came in, and they said if we'd have known that this virus was engineered, did come from the lab, that would have helped in how we dealt with the whole situation. So by keeping that information from the American people, and I think covering your backside like Dr. Fauci did, I think that hurt our whole effort. But again, maybe I'm wrong, but if I am, Dr. Fauci, come in and answer my questions. I'll be glad to question you again. I'll be glad to give you the opportunity to answer.